There's a question that doesn't show up once. It stays. It follows you when things are quiet, when effort doesn't turn into results, when you see other people moving forward and you're still standing where you started. Am I the one? Not in an arrogant way, in a scared way. Am I the one who's actually meant to make it? Or am I just another person trying too hard to be special? That question started early for me, long before failure had a name, long before success even felt possible. It showed up when I realized how many people wanted the same things and how few actually got them. I looked around and wondered what separated them. Talent? Luck? Timing? Or something I didn't have? I didn't feel chosen. I didn't feel different. I felt average, replaceable, like if I disappeared, the world wouldn't notice, and the line of people trying would keep moving without me, and that thought messes with you. Because believing you're the one feels delusional, but believing you're not feels dangerous, so you live in between, trying without confidence, hoping without certainty, working without knowing if it even matters. I watched people succeed and wondered if they always knew, if they woke up one day with clarity, with a sign, with some internal confirmation that this path was meant for them. I didn't have that. I had doubt. I questioned myself constantly, not out loud, but internally, quietly comparing my progress to others, quietly wondering if my effort was courage or denial. And the worst part? There was no clear answer, no moment where someone tells you, yes, it's you. No signal that proves you're not wasting time. No guarantee that staying will lead anywhere. Just the question, am I the one or am I just refusing to let go? That question doesn't push you forward, it freezes you. Because if you commit fully and you're wrong, you look foolish. But if you quit early and you were right, you never forgive yourself, so you hesitate. You move forward carefully, half believing, half protecting yourself from disappointment. And over time, that hesitation becomes heavy. I started noticing how much mental energy that question took, how often it interrupted my focus, how it made every setback feel personal, like evidence. Every failure whispered, maybe you're not the one. Every delay felt like confirmation. Every comparison felt like a verdict. And yet, I kept going, not confidently, not boldly, just enough to not stop. I didn't trust myself, but I didn't trust quitting either. And that's a painful place to exist, because you're working without conviction and doubting without relief. I wanted certainty before commitment. I wanted reassurance before effort. I wanted to know the ending before I invested years of my life into the middle. But life doesn't work that way. No one hands you permission. No one confirms your role. You either stay or you leave, and most people leave at the question. They interpret doubt as a sign. They treat uncertainty like a warning. They assume that if they were truly the one, it wouldn't feel this hard. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the question isn't meant to be answered early? What if it's meant to be survived? I didn't have clarity. I didn't feel chosen. All I had was the discomfort of not knowing and the quiet decision to continue anyway. At the time, I thought that meant I was unsure. Now I realize it meant something else. It meant I was still willing to find out. Working hard is difficult. Working hard without any signs is exhausting. There were long stretches where effort felt like it disappeared the moment I put it in. No feedback, no confirmation, no signal that I was moving in the right direction. Just work, followed by silence. That silence is dangerous, because when there's no response from the outside, your mind starts filling in the gaps, and it rarely fills them with kindness. If this was meant for me, wouldn't something have happened by now? If I was really the one, wouldn't it feel clearer than this? I kept showing up, but every day felt heavier than the last. Not because the work was harder, but because the uncertainty was louder. I wasn't just doing the work. I was constantly evaluating it, looking for signs, reading into small moments, overanalyzing everything. A good day felt like hope. A bad day felt like proof I should stop. That emotional swing is exhausting. I watched other people get results faster and wondered what they had that I didn't. Not just skills, certainty, they moved with confidence, they spoke with conviction, they didn't look like they were questioning their place every 5 minutes. I compared my behind the scenes to their highlights and convinced myself I was missing something essential. Maybe they were the one. Maybe I was just pretending to be. And the hardest part was not knowing how to tell the difference. I wanted a signal, any signal, that said, keep going. Something external, something undeniable, but nothing came. No breakthrough, no reassurance, no moment of clarity. Just the same routine and the same unanswered question. And that's where most people stop. not because they're lazy, but because uncertainty hurts more than failure. Failure gives you closure. Uncertainty keeps you trapped in possibility. I didn't fail dramatically during this phase, I just stayed unsure. I showed up even when my belief was low. I did the work while doubting whether it mattered. I kept moving while questioning every step. And that takes a different kind of strength. Not the loud kind, the quiet, uncomfortable kind. I started realizing that effort doesn't always come with confidence. Sometimes effort comes despite doubt, and that doesn't make it weaker. It makes it more honest. I wasn't pretending to be special. I was testing whether persistence could replace certainty. I also noticed something uncomfortable. I was waiting for permission. Permission to believe, permission to commit fully, permission to stop questioning myself, but permission never came. And slowly that taught me something important. No one knows early, no one gets a sign. The people who look certain usually became certain after staying long enough, not before. I had it backwards. I thought clarity came first and effort followed. In reality, effort comes first and clarity is built over time. That realization didn't remove doubt, but it changed how I related to it. I stopped treating doubt like a warning and started treating it like part of the cost. Something you pay up front before anything makes sense. I kept working, not because I believed I was the one, but because I wasn't ready to let the question decide for me. And maybe that's the most honest phase of any journey. Working without signs, moving without certainty, continuing without proof. Because anyone can work when the path is clear. Very few can work when it isn't. And that's where this story really starts to separate. I didn't realize it at first, but the question itself was doing something. Am I the one? It wasn't just sitting in my head, it was filtering people out. I started noticing that most people didn't quit because they failed. They quit much earlier than that. They quit the moment doubt showed up and stayed too long. The moment things stopped feeling exciting. The moment progress slowed. The moment the questions stopped being curious and started being uncomfortable. That's when people leave. They don't say it out loud, but you can see it happen. Effort becomes inconsistent. Passion turns cautious. The work becomes optional instead of necessary. They interpret doubt as a sign. If this was meant for me, wouldn't I feel more certain? If I was really the one, wouldn't this be easier? So they step back slowly, carefully, until one day they're no longer trying at all. And they call it maturity. They call it realism. They call it choosing something else. But most of the time, it's just discomfort avoidance. I saw people with real potential disappear at this stage, not because they lacked skill, but because they didn't want to sit with uncertainty. They needed answers before commitment, and answers don't come early. That's the trap. We grow up thinking clarity comes first, that you're supposed to know before you invest years of your life. That certainty is the starting line. But that's not how real paths work. Certainty is built, not discovered. I didn't suddenly feel chosen one day. I didn't wake up confident. I just noticed that I was still there while others weren't. Still working, still showing up, still asking the question, but not letting it stop me. And that's when I understood something important. The question isn't meant to be answered. It's meant to be endured. Doubt doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're early. Every path that matters feels unclear in the beginning. If it didn't, everyone would stay. Everyone would push through. Everyone would make it far, but they don't because doubt is heavy. It drains you quietly. It makes you second guess every effort. It makes you hesitate right before momentum has a chance to form. Most people don't fail at execution. They fail at staying present long enough for execution to matter. I stopped waiting for the question to go away. Instead, I carried it with me. I worked while doubting. I learned while questioning. I moved forward without emotional certainty. And that felt wrong at first, like I was doing something incorrectly. But maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to feel. Because if being the one was obvious, it wouldn't mean anything. If destiny came with instructions, commitment wouldn't require courage. I realized that people who look confident aren't confident because they knew early. They're confident because they stayed long enough for doubt to lose its grip. Doubt is strongest at the beginning. It fades only when effort becomes routine, and routine requires time. So when I saw others quit at the question, I didn't feel superior. I felt aware. Aware that staying wasn't about believing in myself more. It was about tolerating uncertainty longer. That's the real separation. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence. Tolerance. Tolerance for not knowing. Tolerance for feeling average. Tolerance for moving forward without applause or reassurance. The question, am I the one, didn't disappear for me. It just stopped controlling my decisions. And that's when everything changed. Because once doubt no longer decides for you, consistency finally has space to work. There was a moment when I stopped trying to feel special, not because I gave up, but because I got tired of waiting for permission. I realized something uncomfortable. I was asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, "Am I the one?" I should have been asking, "Am I willing to stay?" Because nothing about my journey suddenly changed. There was no breakthrough that announced itself, no emotional shift that made everything feel clear. What changed was quieter. I stopped expecting proof before effort. I stopped waiting to feel confident before committing. I stopped measuring every step to see if it made me look meant for this. I just showed up, not with belief, not with certainty, with consistency. And consistency does something strange to identity. At first, it feels mechanical. You're just repeating actions, just following a routine, just doing the work because it's what comes next. But over time, repetition turns into familiarity. Familiarity turns into skill. Skill turns into trust. Turns not trust in the outcome, trust in yourself. I didn't wake up one day and decide I was the one. I noticed that I had become someone who didn't leave, someone who showed up even when things were unclear, someone who kept going even when doubt was still present, someone who no longer needed emotional reassurance to continue. That's when I understood something important. The one isn't chosen early. The one is formed over time. Staying changes you. It sharpens your instincts. It hardens your discipline. It teaches you how to move without drama. I started seeing progress in small, almost boring ways. I handled things better. I recovered faster. I didn't overreact to setbacks. I didn't over-celebrate small wins either. I became steadier, and steadiness is powerful because when you're steady, you don't get thrown off by uncertainty. You don't panic when things slow down. You don't question your place every time something doesn't work. You adjust. You continue, you stay. That's when confidence quietly shows up. Not the loud kind, the grounded kind, the kind that doesn't need comparison, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that comes from knowing you've already survived the hardest part. Not knowing. I realize that most people never become the one because they're waiting to feel like the one first. They want clarity before commitment, certainty before sacrifice. But the order is wrong. Commitment comes first. Identity comes later. I wasn't special when I started. I wasn't chosen. I wasn't different. I became different by staying when others left. And that staying changed how I saw myself. I stopped asking if I belonged. I stopped wondering if I was allowed to be here. I was here because I hadn't gone anywhere. And that's when the question, "Am I the one?" lost its power. Not because it was answered, but because it no longer mattered. I didn't need to be the one. I just needed to be someone who stayed long enough to become capable. And capability beats destiny every time because destiny doesn't work without discipline, and discipline only forms when you show up, even when it doesn't feel meaningful yet. Becoming the one wasn't a moment, it was a process, a slow, uncomfortable, invisible process that rewarded endurance, not belief. And once I understood that, everything felt lighter. I wasn't chasing a label anymore. I was building myself. If you're still asking yourself, "Am I the one?" I want you to pause for a second, not to answer it, just to notice it. Because that question doesn't mean you're lost. It means you care enough to wonder. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they're waiting for certainty in a place where certainty doesn't exist yet. They want proof before commitment, permission before effort, a sign before sacrifice. And that sign rarely comes. I used to believe that if I was truly the one, I would feel different, more confident, more sure, less afraid. I thought doubt was evidence that I didn't belong here. I was wrong. Doubt isn't a verdict, it's a toll. You pay it early if the path matters. No one starts as the one. Not the people you admire, not the ones who made it. They didn't wake up chosen. They stayed long enough to become capable. If I could speak to my younger self, the version of me who kept asking this question in quiet moments, I wouldn't try to convince them of anything. I'd say this: stop asking if you're the one. Start asking if you're willing to stay. Because staying changes you. Staying when it's unclear. Staying when you feel average. Staying when progress is invisible. That's where identity forms. People who leave early keep the question forever. It follows them into every new attempt, every new idea, every new path. They keep starting over, hoping the next thing will finally feel right. But it never does, because the feeling doesn't come first. The work does. Clarity isn't the starting point, it's the byproduct. If you're still here, still trying, still showing up, still wrestling with doubt instead of running from it, you're not behind, you're early. early enough that things don't make sense yet, early enough that results haven't caught up, early enough that the question still feels heavy. That's normal. What isn't normal is staying. Most people don't. They leave at discomfort, they leave at uncertainty, they leave when they stop feeling special. And that's okay, but it's also why so few ever become the one. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't stay long enough to find out. You don't need confidence to continue. You don't need belief. You don't need answers. You need consistency. You need to show up again, especially on days when the question gets loud, especially when doubt tries to rush you into quitting. Because every day you stay, the question loses a little power, not all at once, slowly, until one day you realize something quietly changed. You're not asking anymore. Not because you finally got an answer, but because you became someone who no longer needs one. And that's the real shift. The one isn't a title you discover, it's an identity you build, built from repetition, built from tolerance for not knowing, built from staying when leaving would be easier. So if you're still asking, am I the one? Good. It means you're standing at the part of the journey where most people turn back. And if you don't turn back, you won't need to ask that question forever, because staying answers it for you. V.